The value of the dollar, now more important than ever. But for a single working father like Chris Case, the poverty line really is a fine line. He makes just enough so that he's not poor enough to get help from the state. Tonight we're asking, how is that possible? And what should Chris and other families do?
I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
On nights like this, life is perfect for Chris Case.
Caden, he's 17 months old, going on 18. Just awesome kid. And
time with his little boy in the front yard, and it's free these days, a must.
Right now, I don't get any child support. I might not ever.
Caden's mom is in jail for abusing him when he was 5 months old. Chris is raising him alone and working a full-time job.
I work 40 hours a week doing my best I can.
Chris makes $10.45 an hour working in material services at an aviation company. After taxes, that's about $650 every 2 weeks to cover all of his bills. Barely enough to get by, but too much to qualify for most state assistance.
They say, well, you make too much money, and, I don't make a lot of money.
Chris is just one of many who's not poor enough to qualify for assistance. Candace Gregory with the Open Door Mission says here at the Timberlake Outreach Center, of all of the people who come here looking for help, 82 to 83% of them are working, but just barely getting by.
A lot of times we see our men and women and families who want to move off of welfare and want to move off assistance, but every time they take a step forward, it's like a step back, because if you make $1 more, you lose your child care, you lose your food stamps. So it's almost you're penalized for going to work full-time and going to school full-time.
To Chris Case, the message is pretty clear.
It's almost like the state to me is telling me that you have to be unemployed to get help. The people that want to work don't get help, but the people that don't want to work, they get all the help. It's like this, to me, the state's telling you stay at home.
We took Chris's story to the Department of Health and Human Services in the state of Nebraska. They declined to go on camera, but a spokesperson told me they're required to follow very specific state and federal guidelines and regulations to determine a person's eligibility for assistance. And Nebraska is helping people. According to HHS, in April 2011 alone, 77,000 households received supplemental nutrition assistance, SNAP, which used to be known as food stamps. The value, almost $22 million. 8,300 families received cash through temporary assistance for needy families, $2.7 million. 238,000 people received health insurance through Medicaid and the Children's Health Insurance Program. Nearly $119 million. But Chris and Caden don't qualify for any of that. HHS suggests they and families like them lean on community services, which can be flexible when the state cannot. But organizations like the Open Door Mission are near their breaking point.
We have a 30% increase compared to this time last year.
Candace Gregory says it's time to shift from dependence and create independence.
Ready? 1, 2.
Chris says he's not looking for a free ride. He just wants what's best for his son.
Have a good life and just respect people and just respect life and be just happy all the time.
I got you. It'll be up to state and federal lawmakers to change how the system works. Omaha State Senator Bob Christ says there are issues with the current system, and he says he'd like to see more phasing out to help people become independent.
You don't really apply for a program because you might be above that line, but we give some tolerance to staying there for a short period of time. In the long run, that's going to be a huge savings for the taxpayer to get more people out on their own and off of public assistance.
Senator Chris says there are options right now for people like Chris. Contact your state senator, who can work through the state ombudsman's office to possibly find a resource that hasn't been checked. And as busy as they are, Candace Gregory says the Open Door Mission is always ready to help.